It's football and other F words. NFL draft, Extravaganza Ultimate Fest 2023. I am your host, Zach Lyons. You can follow me on Twitter at FWordsPod. You can go to stackingtheinbox.com. $4 a month will get you access to the new and improved, the one of its only of its kind in the Nashville media market. A horizontal and vertical big board with 263 prospects. It is an extensive and very pretty, aesthetically pleasing on the eyes big board. And you can get my final mock draft, stackingtheinbox.com. And then, of course, supposedly, and I did not fact check this, you wrote a 6,900-word article on my guys in the NFL draft at paulkarski.com. He said it may include the Twitter stuff, like the Twitter links. So jury's out. We may need a recount on this. It's a very nice number and a very great article, paulkarski.com. That's Mike Herndon at Mike Herndon NFL. We got a lot to get to you today because there's just so much to talk about. And this may be a little bit of a longer episode. I know that's not like us. We usually keep it short and sweet. We never go over and never go long, but this one may be a little bit longer. It's an extravaganza fest. Bluegrass Beverages are our sponsors. We'll talk a little bit more about them. But in the YouTube channel, in the Facebook channels, there is a link. I don't know how many tickets we have left. I think as of last night, it was like before I sent out an email to the Stack in the Inbox subscribers, there was like 5 or 4 left. But $40 gets you all you can eat, all you can drink and drive responsibly, and make sure you have a designated driver or you have a little Lyft driver or Uber driver, ride share. We'll get you into an exclusive draft fest. Mike will be there. This is like a solar eclipse to get Mike out of the house. Mike will be there. Internet Keith will be there. Stoney Keeley will be there. And of course, Braden Gall and myself will be there as well. We're going to go live from there when the Titans are on the clock. Maybe they're on the clock at 3, who knows? And we'll also give you instant analysis. There is a little contest to win you an expensive bottle of bourbon. All it is $40, and all the proceeds go to kids. Our kids, it's a charitable fundraiser that Braden really has strong ties to. Bluegrass Beverages, Sinker Beverages. They're the same people, just 2 different locations. Come on. Free parking, by the way. All right, Mike.
Nice.
Woo! Let's start with Rand Carthon being a liar. And maybe that's a little harsh words, but I cannot believe that he on a microphone said, we have not gotten any trade calls on Derrick Henry. Not only can I not believe that, I can't believe that media people that are respected media members are actually buying into it and saying, hey, they told you. And then we got fans like, oh, all the bloggers were wrong about this one. All the bloggers. I even had a guy quote tweet me and delete it. I know who you are, and I saw it. So just want to make sure that you know that. I was about to respond to you because there is smoke. There is fire. People have called on Derrick Henry.
Yes, absolutely. Like, I don't know how anyone doesn't believe or believes this idea that, and I did talk to, I can't remember who I was talking to. I've talked a lot this week. Somebody mentioned, he said he didn't receive any calls on Derrick Henry, but maybe he made calls on Derrick Henry. Maybe he was using semantics there to say we were doing all the calling on the Derrick Henry stuff, which would actually go.
Which as fans, which ones do you want? Like, which one do you want to hear, fans?
Which would go along with the Mike Silver report that Henry was being shopped at the combine. Look, I mean, there are way too many reports out there from respected national media people saying that Henry's available, saying that they're hearing about Henry being a subject of trade talks and things like that. To imagine that these people are all just making this up, like that's just not how any of this works.
Well, it's the bloggers, Mike. It's not even the national media. It's the bloggers that are getting the brunt of this. Like,
the old blog
let's be honest here. The bloggers, your Music City Miracles, your Titans Size, your Titans Wire, AI, or what is it, SI.com and all fan-sided, stackingtheinbox.com. we're only reporting what the actual people have reported. Like we're there, it's not bloggers. Like the guy goes, well, he put the bloggers on blast. This is why I only listen to Teron Davenport. And that's not a slight at Teron Davenport, by the way. But in the end of the day, you should be listening to the national guys. The national guys get the bulk of the juicy gossip, like Diana Rossini. Obviously, we know where that's coming from. But don't come after the bloggers.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy to me that and look, if you're one of these fans, and I called him out on Twitter already earlier this week because Buck did those polls, right? Of are you buying the rumors about Ryan Tannehill? Or are you buying the rumors about Derrick Henry being traded? And like it was like 2/3 did not believe the Henry rumors, and 2/3 did believe the Tannehill rumors. So it's like it's literally just I don't want to believe it, so I'm going to say that it's fake news. And
exactly.
There's no difference between the Tannehill stuff and the Henry stuff. There is not. Like
in fact, there's been
people. There's
been
more
smoke
on the
on Derrick Henry,
and it's been more specific. Like all the Tannehill stuff is like worded as believed to be available or things like that, which is how I think Fowler put it recently. He was the most recent one to kind of throw that out there.
Which we said on the football show on Monday. No duh. Thank you.
Right. Yeah, of course. Yeah, he's available. He's going to be very available if the Titans trade up and take a quarterback, by the way, in the first round. And I could see like maybe where that is coming from is the Titans are calling around to other teams saying, hey, if we do trade up and take a quarterback and we want to move Tannehill, would you be interested and what would you be willing to pay? You know, because I could see them and I don't know, maybe not with Richardson, like, but it seems to me like Richardson is not one of the quarterbacks that they're really being connected to at this point. It seems to mostly be most of the smoke is around Stroud, most of the smoke is around Levis, which, you know, one of those I really like, one of those I'm not so crazy about. But anyways, I
think the smoke around Will Levis, by the way, is like the local media. We'll get into it a little bit later. Is the local media really reading into stuff that's not there?
Really reaching for an SEC guy.
Yeah.
So I think I don't know. I think both of those guys that they would view as like, all right, let's go get them in immediately. Like, let's play this guy. Not we're gonna sit him for a year and all. Like, I think Stroud's ready to play. I think Levis, for all of his faults, and I don't know if he'll be good. I think he would be pretty much ready to go play early.
I think what you would be doing is saying that, hey, we're willing to take our bumps and bruises with the quarterback like Will Levis or Anthony Richardson if it means we net draft picks in this particular draft.
Yeah.
And get money off our books.
Yeah, exactly. So I think if they were to land one of those two guys, I do think you see them try to move Tannehill actively. And it may be a deal where, like, look, you have to eat a little bit of cap, or have to eat some of his salary in the deal to get it done, which the Titans should be fine with because they're still going to save net money overall. And if it gets them a draft pick back, I think that's a fair trade. If they needed to do that, if it was a team, say, like, I think Washington still makes sense. Because I still don't necessarily buy this Howell thing, even though I know there's reports out this morning, doubling down on that Howell's their guy and all this.
I mean, if you're doubling down on it on draft day, like in my opinion, if you're doubling down on something like that on the morning of the draft or on the eve of the draft, I guess if you were told, yes, you told your reporter yesterday, that is an obvious lie. Like that is such an obvious smokescreen, right?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely could see it, and there has been.
I think they want Hendon Hooker. That's what I think.
I can see that. But
I don't think they want people to trade up in front of them.
Somebody's going to end up walking out of this draft without a quarterback, and maybe, especially if it's a team like Washington, who has a pretty good roster other than quarterback at this point. Why would you not want to grab Tannehill and try him out for a year? And if it doesn't work, then you're going to be drafting high in a good quarterback class next year. Or if it does work, you could extend him and let him be the quarterback for a few more years. I think Tannehill puts the Commanders in the playoffs this year, right? Like if he ended up on the Commanders, I think they are a
tough
playoff
division,
team.
But I think it would be pretty good. Yeah, I think it'd be pretty
tough division, but the conference sucks. So I think you can get 3 in from the NFC.
Oh yeah, I guess that's true. Just while we're on the topic of draft stuff, because this is the ultimate NFL draft mega extravaganza fest.
Extravaganza.
Will Anderson Jr. just moved up to minus 320 to be the number 2 overall pick in FanDuel. So big jump there. Okay. So we both dismissed this notion that Derrick Henry that basically Carthon is either choosing his words carefully or just what I think, Mike, is that he is sticking to it's a very hard line for him. He is not going to cross over a line and do negotiations in public. And I think that's ultimately what it is. He's taking trade calls, but he doesn't want Derrick Henry to know that he's taking trade. He doesn't want to put it out in the media. He's doing it because he does not want to negotiate in the media. That's how I feel about it. Whether that's just stupid or not, that's maybe it's just how he's always going to be. He's always going to deny stuff. But just remember, John Robinson and Mike Vrabel, leading into the draft, both denied A.J. Brown trade rumors, and A.J. Brown's going to be tight. So this idea that you're all of a sudden going to believe listen, general managers lie to you all the time. And maybe it's not a lie as much as a fib or a dance around the word usage. But they'll believe it. I 0% believability from me that there was been no trade talks.
Honestly, the whole press conference from Carthon, I was like, the one thing that I think you could actually take as legit truth out of it was that he owned up to asking Bayard for a pay cut. And that is the one thing that I'm like, okay, that's probably true, because why else would he say that? You don't say that unless it would be true. But everything else, I'm just not buying. I think he was saying a lot of words to say as little as possible. And he's not going to go out here and tell you anything about what he's actually thinking heading into the draft. Like, he knows other teams are going to watch these press conferences and try to see if there's any tells in there and everything like that. These guys are all like super paranoid about their plans getting out, and smoke screens on smoke screens getting out in the media and all this stuff. I just don't. The idea that he's going to come out and tip his hand on who his quarterback preference is, or anything else for that matter, in this press conference 2 days before the draft or a week before the draft, whenever it was, it's just utter nonsense. It's ridiculous.
I will say I thought two things were interesting, and one of them sparked my big board was how they build their big board horizontally and vertically. And we've seen these big boards in the back of draft rooms that are built by position and rounds, and they're not built like any other big board in the media. So I was like, well, fuck it. Why can't anybody do this the right way? If you want to be accurate, and maybe my assessment of players isn't accurate, but I'm going to at least build a big board that way. It was a fun little exercise, and I'll build upon that as it goes. And then how he talked about he didn't have much experience with the S2 testing, which I thought was a little odd that he said that. But maybe he just had the data. He didn't have experience as much as he's getting now with the general manager position. But he also – go ahead.
The thing is, San Francisco, and this is commonly misperceived now because of the athletic thing on Brock Purdy and all this, the 49ers were not – they are not an S2 subscriber.
I did not know that. That's the first time I'm hearing about that.
Yeah, I confirmed that with the S2 guy himself. They were not – they happened to draft Purdy, and it turned out like that was – but that was not the reason that they picked Purdy.
Interesting.
So – that's something that's been commonly misconstrued out there. But he is new to this S2 data. But he said the guy from S2 actually said he met Carthon. He had only met him for the first time, like pretty recently after he got hired, and he really likes him for what it's worth. Thinks he's going to bring a lot more of this analytics bent to the Titans, which we're already seeing. Like it's part of.
Obviously with S2,
But yeah, that is something that I think he was being truthful about that. That's new to him.
Well, I just thought that is interesting, but then now it's even more interesting. But the part of that I've really found interesting is that he put a real emphasis that it's not just for the quarterbacks, which we've known and we have talked about it. We talked about Trent McDuffie and what it could do for cornerbacks and stuff. But I thought that was really interesting that I do think S2 is going to have some sway in the war room and in the scouting process, but I don't know how much yet. But I did find all that interesting that he said that. But speaking of S2, speaking of smoke screen, speaking of public relations tour, good Lord, that guy was busy. And I got a lot I want to talk about with S2, with CJ Stroud, a conspiracy theory and all that kind of stuff. But I want to start with S2. Pay your public relations firm and your lawyers a little bit extra Christmas bonus early, because this guy has got the general public now dismissing every score, everything about all these scores. I mean, the general public. And it's masterful. It's masterful work from a guy who admires marketing, public relations, negotiations, all this kind of stuff. It's masterful work, because it's funny, because the very first one, the one that everybody shares, is the grain of salt take, right?
Yeah.
Let's be honest, though. There were no conversations when that video came out about CJ Stroud. It was about Will Levis's.
His name wasn't specifically mentioned, but he did say all of the guys in the conversation or all of the top
that's what I'm
guys
saying.
or whatever.
He didn't say top guys at all. So let's first say that. He said all the quarterbacks in the conversation.
Yeah, it was in the conversation.
That the thing is that CJ Stroud was not in this S2 conversation up until that point. It was Anthony Richardson, Will Levis, and Bryce Young. And he said you got to take those reports with a grain of salt. And I believe he's alluding to Anthony Richardson, who at the time we did not know his score, but it was being said that he tested very good, and technically he tested below the 80% threshold, which is basically their average, is their Mendoza line. So yeah. I think that's what he was referring to. Then, of course, CJ Stroud's score gets leaked. Finally, breath of fresh air. I mean, like, been holding that in for forever. And everybody keeps saying, well, one scout said that you got to 18. No, multiple sources confirmed in the article that CJ Stroud score and Bryce Young score, and then he only had one guy go on record talk about the score. So we got to make sure we clarify that. Okay, that's Bob McGinn's article. And then in the article by Bruce Feldman, a quarterback coach specifically brought it up. Now, here's the thing. He goes on to the Pat McAfee show, and he alludes that 2 scores are inaccurate. He didn't say which 2 scores were inaccurate. What if it was? We know that we think one is Hendon Hooker, and we'll talk about that in a minute. That may have been an old score and inaccurate. But he didn't say he was inaccurate in a bad way or a good way. They just inaccurate, right? So it could have been like Jaron Hall's score was probably a little bit lower, and we don't know how much accurate. Masterful work. So everybody just assumes it's CJ Stroud. I think it's a safe assumption that maybe, I think like 80% CJ Stroud, but are we really talking about, like, is it a difference from 18 to 19, 18 to 20, 18 to 40, or is it 18 to 80? You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't know.
And I think the other thing that's not totally clear, and I think he mentions this as well, is that there are multiple different tests, and we don't know whether that 18 was a score on a specific test or his composite score or what that was. So it's entirely possible that what's got out there is his score on one of the 9 tests or whatever.
And I was going to bring that up in all fairness, that'd be the case. But also the case is that we know that he scored bad. Maybe it's not 18 bad, but we know it wasn't good.
Yeah, it wasn't one of the 90-something guys, which there are a lot of 90-something guys, by the way, based on the reports.
By the way, the quarterback coaches and everybody said bad. He even said that he doesn't test well, and his like attitude and answer surrounding the S2 test was not very good. But he even knows he didn't test well. He said that on in a Jim Wyatt media scrum yesterday. So we know he just didn't test well. We know it's not near.
It's not
the threshold.
Sure.
It's not
Probably
great.
Not 80 plus. Yeah.
If it's not 18, you know, it's like 25 or 35 or 45, whatever Hendon Hooker got. But he did allude, and this is the one that I found funny that people thought he was talking about CJ Stroud. He says one of the guys, talking about context, one of the guys scored better his second time around because his first time he was rushing due to travel for a all-star game. And he tested poorly. He was tired. He was hungry, and he tested poorly. And I talked about this, that sometimes you just wake up and you just don't feel like taking a test. I talked about this on Monday on Chase and Michelle. Sometimes you just don't got it. And that sounds like that. CJ Stroud didn't play in an all-star game. The only score that has been out that is bad, that is tied to a all-star game attendee is Hendon Hooker, who went to the Senior Bowl. He didn't play, but he was there all week. He traveled and did all that kind of stuff, did media work and all that kind of stuff. And apparently he tested better, and that 40 score is an old score. So we know that at least Hendon Hooker probably tested better than his 40-something score. What's interesting is that obviously they want this to go away. The guy, is his name? Brandon
Ally, yeah.
Brendan Ally was on Robbie and Rex Road, and he says, we prefer to stay under the radar. They don't want this out. They want to kill all these rumors, and they want to go back under the radar.
Because their business model is that they contract with half the teams in the NFL and provide the data and help them, do custom tests or, develop things, that they can do for them. So they partner with half the NFL, and it's an exclusive agreement. Like they will only do 2 teams per division that they partner with. The Titans and Colts are the 2 teams in the AFC South. So the Jaguars and Texans cannot sign up with them. They cannot get this data, anything like that. So when this shit gets out in the media, it is bad for business for them because it is hurting the people that are paying to partner with them and get this data because it's giving it to all these other teams, right? I mean, and it is smart of them to plant seeds of doubt into what gets reported about the S2 scores so that the other teams aren't just sitting there going, well, I don't have to pay for the data. It's just going to leak out there anyways, and then we'll have it, So I think it's very smart of them how they're approaching it. And yeah, they do want to stay off the radar and not be like, they don't want this to be like in every year we end up knowing all of the S2 scores for all of the quarterbacks kind of thing. Like they don't want that. And
because they want to get paid, it makes sense. It makes perfect sense. And then it can corrupt data. Then you got people, maybe purposely throwing tests, which we'll get into here in just a second. But all in all this to say, that we know that CJ Stroud score is bad. We just don't know how bad it was. And we know it's probably bottom tier in this particular draft. Okay. I wanted to clarify what everybody is missing in these comments and stuff. Okay. Before we get to our conspiracy theory, which is the greatest conspiracy theory known to man, I want to do I'll drink to that. Now, it's a little early in the morning. I've had a hectic morning. I didn't get to make my Bloody Mary with my Tito's vodka that I bought from Bluegrass Beverages in Hendersonville, Tennessee. Go join the In Crowd Club so you get advance notice on all the special bourbons, all the special liquors, and that's where you're even going to be buying the tickets if you need to go get a ticket real quick. That's where you're going to be buying the tickets. So Bluegrass Beverages in Hendersonville, sister store, brother store, whatever they call it, down in East Nashville, which is, holy crap, Sinkers Beverages. It just blanked on me. So we do our segment. I'll drink to that. And I'm finally going to be able to drink, and I'll drink to that. Aaron Rodgers is officially, it's done. For 1 year, we don't have to hear about Aaron Rodgers, whether he's going or staying to the Jets. Now we have to wait till next year to see if he's retiring or not. But it's finally over. Our national nightmare is over. I'll drink to that.
I'll drink to that as well. That's I'm so ready to not have to think about or talk about Rodgers for a minute. Although as soon as he shows up at Jets training camp, it's going to be live from Jets training camp for the next month. But anyways, mine this week will be to the draft being here. I absolutely love the NFL draft. It's one of my favorite weekends of the year. I am super excited for this one specifically because Rand Carthon has done a masterful job of floating everything fucking out there. They have been reportedly connected to, these wide receivers. They've been connected to these offensive linemen. They've been connected to, at one point they were going to take an edge rusher, right? Like Matt Miller had that thing of watch out for them with the edge rushers. They've been trading up. They've been trading down. They've been sticking at 11. Like all things are on the table. There's been smoke out there in every direction. It's kind of the opposite approach of John Robinson, who nothing got out. Everything gets out. Like everything's out, but it's all just like, I guess it's if one thing gets out, it can't affect anything because there's been 10 other things out there. So I think he's done a great job of keeping everyone guessing. And Jim Wyatt did the roundup of, I think it was 120 people he polled. I think you and I were both part of that, as to who they thought the Titans were going to take. And there were 15 different players selected, and they're only picking at 11. So it's clear that nobody has any clue what's actually going to happen, which is exciting. I cannot wait to see, like, from pick 2 on. It's going to be like pins and needles, just waiting to see if the trade emblem comes up on the screen, and who is it, who's moving.
It's going to be like audible gas. Everybody's going to go silent, waiting.
I can't wait. The whole top 10 is just going to be like heart palpitations with every pick, trying to see who's falling. It's so exciting, because this could be a franchise changing draft for the Titans, right? Like, you could have a franchise quarterback, you could have the best wide receiver in the draft. Like, there's all these different permutations and directions that this could go. And I'm just super excited to see it play out and get some answers finally on like what this is going to be. So that's I'll drink to that.
Speaking of, Diana Rossini just tweeted out, I'm told the Arizona Cardinals are currently mulling trade offers for multiple teams interested in moving to number 3 overall. So we may not even have to wait to the draft tonight to find out who's moving up to number 3.
Just interesting. I feel like trading up to 3 with all of the interest in, like, nobody knows what the Texans are doing. I just don't think you could do it. I don't think I could do it, not knowing that your guy's really going to be there. Like, I mean, unless it's.
I think you have to be comfortable with the top 3 guys, right?
Yeah, I mean, you would have to be comfortable with at least 2 of the non-young quarterbacks, because I mean, Young is clearly not going to be available. But I mean, in all the smoke seems to be that, like, I don't know, Richardson, to me, like, the highest he could possibly go would be Seattle at 5, is what it seems like right now. And I don't know. I can't see a team trading up to 3, not knowing what the Texans are going to do. And
but what if the Texans draft Will Levis? Yeah, what if the Texans take Will Levis? Because then you got the Colts. Then the Colts are going to want to jump in, because I think the Colts are staying pat. Like, I don't think they're trading up. So, but if the Texans take Will Levis, now there's one extra team into the fray. That's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you could do it. Now, maybe the Cardinals are putting pressure on teams to go ahead and maybe they want to make a deal now for some reason. I kind of feel like they could possibly get more when they
or maybe this is just the Cardinals trying to drive up the price because they know it's not looking good right now.
It could be that too.
Okay,
that's what makes this so fun. Is that there's so many things that could be happening right now.
Speaking of fun, I was going to try and play the clip of this conspiracy theory that Jared Stillman put out, but it was like a 10-minute clip. So I just got the cliff notes for everybody. This is the greatest conspiracy theory of all time. And if this is, it's so good that it's wild, but the way he lays it out, it's kind of like, okay, I could believe some of this. Like, I could kind of attach myself to a little bit of this and allow myself to believe it. Okay. This is a conspiracy theory. So we're going to go all the way back to the combine. This is a conspiracy theory about why CJ Stroud is falling in the public eye. We're going to go all the way back to the combine. We know that the Titans, according to Teron Davenport, like him a lot, but feel it may be too expensive to go up to number 3. Okay. He then goes on at the combine to have an unbelievable passing workout, A++++. I mean, everybody's talking about it. And after the combine, Stroud in turn turns into the consensus number 1 pick for weeks, that he's going to be the number 1 pick, that he is the Panthers pick. Then the Titans sent roughly 7 people to Ohio State University. We know that Tim Kelly's there, Mike Vrabel's there, Rand Carthen was there. A lot of people went. And we know then that McShay says that Mike Vrabel came over and said, hey, hit the showers and let's have a meeting in the wide receiver room. And we know that, according to Carthon, Mike Vrabel and Tim Kelly were in that meeting. At that meeting, here's where the conspiracy theory starts. He goes in there and he says, hey, Mike Vrabel does. He says, hey, that organization over at the Carolina Panthers is kind of wacky. All right. You don't want to go over there. Their owner's a little weird. Their GM probably is going to get rid of you pretty quickly. They don't know what they're doing. And Frank Reich, great guy, have dinner with him and his wife all the time. We couples date down in the Appalachian Mountains, Pigeon Forge on the weekends. We share hot tub. We're great friends. But he's not that good of a coach. Did you see what he's done over at the Indianapolis Colts? And he just got fired. He's not that good of a coach. So then you got the Texans, CJ. And Nick Caserio, he's a freaking weirdo. I know him. He's nice, but he's odd. And, I've been around in that organization a while. I played against that organization. Do you really want to be associated with an organization that allowed a lot of women to be sexually harassed and facilitated that? You don't want to be part of that. It's a lot of drama. And your agent and their representation, they don't get along. You don't want to get into all that later on. The Raiders, come on, Josh McDaniels. I mean, we know about Josh McDaniels. We know about Mark Davis. No, we're not doing that. So let's do this. It may cost you a little bit of money, CJ, but we're going to devise a plan. I got my good friend Ryan Day here. We're going to devise a plan, and we're going to have you tank your draft stock, but don't worry. You're coming to the best place for you. Ryan Day will back me up here. This is the best place for you. We'll set you up for success. We got a lot of cap space. Our GM loves you. We know how to develop a quarterback. You can see what Tim Kelly has done, what Charles London's done. We're going to take good care of it. Okay. So then you hear last Thursday, Diana Rossini say my sense are the Titans would not be willing to trade all the way up to number 3. But I know that they're in the business of getting one of these quarterbacks. Then Brugler says between 2 and 6, and they don't want anything because they think that maybe 3 is too rich and it's not a smokescreen. But anywhere in 2 and 6, they've been making trade calls. It's not a smokescreen. Then we know that CJ Stroud tanks his S2 test, which we've already covered ad nauseum at this point. So what's interesting, though, is that 2 weeks ago, McClain definitively said that the Houston Texans are taking CJ Stroud. Now, 1 week later, after the visits and after the meetings with CJ Stroud and after the S2 score, McClain says they've soured on CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud tanked that interview. Now, think about with the Panthers. After CJ Stroud met with the Panthers, Bryce Young became the consensus number 1 overall pick on all the betting boards. CJ Stroud tanked that interview. And then after the Raiders, he goes and visits the Raiders, who Michael Lombardi's son, I don't remember his name, but he's last name Lombardi. I keep wanting to say Joe, but it's not Joe. Is it Mick? Maybe Mick Lombardi or something like that. But either way, he's the offensive coordinator for the Raiders. So after CJ Stroud meets with the Raiders, that's when Mike Lombardi goes on the air and says, he's not an easy guy to coach from what I've heard. He thinks he knows better. The vibe's just off. Well, he probably heard that from his son, who put him up on the whiteboard and didn't like the interview. He tanked that interview. All that to say that CJ Stroud yesterday, talking to Jim Wyatt, says that Vrabel's been checking on CJ Stroud every day since the pro day. Been checking in a lot. Maybe it's because he's trying to keep the tank going and making sure the plan is going on, that everybody's on the same page. So I have completely bought in on this conspiracy theory. And I know that's a long-winded conspiracy theory, but it kind of could make sense.
It kind of works. And look, Mike Vrabel clearly has the connection with Ohio State. He has the connection with Ryan Day, who is his initial first pick to be offensive coordinator. I know we've talked about that a lot on this podcast over the years, but for some of the newer listeners, that's something that I don't think gets brought up enough, is that when Mike Vrabel was initially hired, his first offer to be the offensive coordinator was actually Ryan Day, not Matt LaFleur. So there's clearly a large amount of respect going both ways there. And to me, I could certainly see the scenario where Day has told Stroud, look, you want to end up with the Titans. You want to end up with the Titans because Vrabel's going to take care of you. Vrabel can coach. You plus Vrabel would be a very dangerous combination in the AFC. And look, Mike Vrabel with a franchise quarterback would be an extremely dangerous combination for the rest of the AFC. So I think there is a scenario where maybe he's angling to get to Tennessee somewhere or another, and he knows it's possible. Because, look, I wouldn't want to go to Houston either. Like, look at what has happened with that franchise ever since Cal McNair took over, basically, right? Like, since the old man died and everything, and the son took over. It's been like succession. This is Cal McNair is like churchy Kendall Roy. He is a fuck up. He is going to mess everything up, and everything that you can go wrong or that he can do wrong, he will. So churchy Kendall Roy down in Houston, I wouldn't want to be any part of that franchise either. The Panthers, maybe, but they aren't exactly they haven't proven anything near what Mike Vrabel and the Titans have over the last 6 years now. So I could see them saying, look, it doesn't really matter where you go. Like, it's a little bit of money difference, sure, but the real money's in the second contract. And if you go to a team that is coached well and will be good around you, that would be that's where you're going to make your money is go to that team. And so I think the Titans could be that team for CJ Stroud.
I feel like the conspiracy theory is chef's kiss, and it doesn't change my opinion about like the outlook of CJ Stroud's career, but it does change my opinion that I think that CJ Stroud's going to be a Tennessee Titan.
I think they want him. I think they've wanted him all along. I think when Teron Davenport reported that back months and months ago, that was true, and that they have had eyes on Stroud the entire time. That this is everything else has come out between then and now is smokescreen and misdirection and everything else, because I think they've wanted Stroud the entire time. And am I wrong in that? No, because Carthon did go to Levis too, didn't he? As far as pro day, I
thought he didn't go to the Florida one, which I thought was weird. That was something that nobody's talked about. I thought
Carthon went to Florida, but he said he didn't. Tennessee.
Or he said he didn't go to Florida. Carthon did. Was he specific? Okay. It didn't sound like he was talking to Vrabel. I meant to go back and listen to that, but he specifically said that he went to himself. It sounded like what he was saying, that he himself went to Ohio State, Kentucky, and didn't go to Florida. Which I thought was odd.
I know he went to Ohio State and Kentucky, and Vrabel was at Ohio State and Kentucky. That was the only two that they were both at. So I think that's telling. And look, everyone, for some reason, like the idea that he didn't take a top 30 visit here was telling. Like, they don't need a top 30 visit. If they were already convinced that they were in on Stroud, they've been
texting each other. They don't need a top 30 visit.
They saw him at his pro day. They had a private meeting in the wide receiver room during his pro day, apparently. They probably didn't feel like they needed a top 30 visit. And if they could keep other teams off their scent by saying, hey, we're interested in Levis, we're interested in Richardson, we're going to bring these guys in and, ignore Stroud or whatever. Like, I don't think they needed a top 30 visit with Stroud. There's not a medical check to be done with him. Like, he's not had any injury issues at Ohio State.
And sometimes people get drafted and did not take a top 30 visit. Like that.
All the time.
I feel like people are really, really – listen, San Francisco takes about, on average, 2.5 players. 2 players. Okay, let me rephrase that. It's like 40-something%. I wrote about it at stackingtheinbox.com. 40% of the players drafted from 2017 to 2022 were visits of some kind. And if you take that 40% number, whatever it was, and multiply that against 6 draft picks, which Tennessee Titans have, that puts you at 2 to 3 players. Does not mean every player is going to be a top 30 visit. It may be less than that. There may be guys that you don't see that we didn't even know about. There may be guys they draft that weren't on the list that they end up taking, and they actually did visit. We don't know. Do not go full on. Well, they've only visited with these. So these are only the guys. I do find the JSN one I do find that one suspicious, because I would think you would want the medicals unless they got advanced, unless they got really good records from Ohio State or whoever it is.
Combine,
or the combine.
They would have had the check at the combine. Yeah, certain teams check certain players at the combine. So I don't know if the Titans medical staff maybe checked JSN specifically at the combine, and they didn't feel like they needed to do a recheck because of that. But that is the way that works. The teams will send their medical staff, and then all the teams are doing checks, but they have to share the reports with the rest of the NFL. So every team gets the report from the combine, but your specific medical staff may have not seen that player. So that's why a lot of times, if there are question marks in the other reports, teams will bring them in to get their own medical staff to get a check on them for the top 30 visit. So I do think the JSN thing, it seems like, and this is just reading the tea leaves on that, seems like they're maybe not as high as on JSN as you and I are, certainly, and as what most people are. I get this weird feeling with Zay Flowers because we've heard that name a couple times.
That's what I was about to talk about next. Zay Flowers.
I get this weird feeling that he might be their top ranked wide receiver on their board, which isn't like totally crazy. Like
it depends on where he matches though horizontally, right? Like if Zay Flowers is your number 1 wide receiver on your board, but you have him as your number 2 overall, draft guy in the draft, something's flawed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I like Zay Flowers a lot. I understand the size concerns and all that, but does he
at
make
11
faster, more explosive? Absolutely. Like, I think he's a reach at 11. I
feel like you're just setting yourself up for Corey Davis, right? Like we're all going to be talking in a few years that Zay Flowers was good, but he never really lived up to number 11.
I don't know. Possible. He would have to be really, really good to live up to 11. I mean, I'll say that he needs to be like a Pro Bowl level wide receiver,
which is highly unlikely. Like I really do, and we'll let's kind of mix a couple different things here. So I want to get into like some fun, crazy rumors, and crazy rumors, and crazy mock drafts, fun mock drafts, all that kind of stuff. And this idea, first off, it's Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft that came out last night. His final mock draft is the most widely panned mock draft I've seen among a bunch of teams. You had the Bengals mad, you had the Saints mad, Cowboys mad. I mean, like all these teams are just mad because it's ridiculous. And Zay Flowers at 11, bar none, is a ridiculous draft pick. It is a draft pick, and he will never live up to that standard of that 1.11 because it's just, he would have to be the extreme outlier. It's like Brandon Cooks was the first outlier. I mean, maybe it's time for another Brandon Cooks, but I don't know.
Cooks isn't the first. I mean, like Antonio Brown was that size. T.Y. Hilton was that size. Steve Smith was that size. Steve Smith was a little thicker, but I do see some
Steve Smith is way more physical on tape than anything that Zay Flowers.
I don't know about that. I actually kind of think Steve Smith isn't a bad comp for Zay Flowers because Flowers is a dog. Like he is. I think he's physical.
Zay is not a dog. There is no dog in that fight.
Absolutely.
And listen, T.Y. Hilton, round 3, pick 92. Like there's a difference between round 3. You wouldn't draft T.Y. Hilton in the first round.
I mean, I guess you probably. I mean, obviously you wouldn't back then, but knowing what you know about him now, you would take him in the first round. The way.
No way. That 1.0. Well, maybe like 1.20, but not like 1.11. Like, you're not drafting him as the 11th best player in that draft class.
He's a 4-time Pro Bowler who had some pretty monster seasons there. I don't know. I think I'm not totally sold on Flowers. I would have him as like a late round 1 kind of guy. I think he is a first round pick. But he's not like I have him and Marvin Mims kind of like to me are the same. I think he's a little bit more fit. The thing is, I think he's more physical than Mims.
I disagree. I think Mims is more physical.
But they bring different. I think they bring a lot of the same things to the table. They've got the great vertical speed. They're really good down the field ball trackers. They're able to make these spectacular catches in traffic. And they. I think Flowers offers more after the catch than Mims does. Mims is kind of just find a soft spot and fall down kind of guy. He's more of a Tyler Lockett. Whereas I think Flowers gives you a little bit more run after catch ability. So I don't know. Flowers is very
okay.
He's a very good player.
I think all this hype is agent stuff. Like I think all this Zay Flowers going in round 1 because heard through the grapevine that his agents are pumping him up pretty good and want people to trade up for him and they want Zay Flowers to go top 10. Like come on. We got to be realistic here that JSN is the clear on film, on the computer spreadsheets, whatever you want to look at is the clear number 1. And for the Titans to pass on JSN for Zay Flowers is insanity. And that's for any team. It's not just the Tennessee Titans. It's for any team. Like I've always thought that in this draft, there's probably going to be 2 wide receivers taken. Now, my
In
mock
the
draft
first?
does not reflect that in the first. And
Oh no, there's going to be more than that.
I
There's
thought
gonna
that Zay Flowers would be the second one, but I
Yeah.
just don't think they're going to be drafted high. Now they got Zay Flowers going at 11. If you trade back to the 20s and they take Zay Flowers, I'm fine with that. You still got to walk away with another wide receiver in this draft. Like JSN, if you drafted JSN as your only wide receiver, I would be kind of okay with it. I think it's a bad strategy, but I would be okay with it. Zay Flowers, you got to have someone, because I cannot trust that he is going to be a guy on the outside. I just can't do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I like, you don't have to convince me on the JSN thing. I'm like all in on JSN, and look, I'd still be thrilled if they took him at 11, even though, like, I mean, who knows what'll happen with Stroud and all that, and what the price tag would be to move up, and all those variables. But assuming Stroud is not an option, JSN's still my top choice. Like, as far as like a guy at 11 that would immediately make this team better, would get the best out of Ryan Tannehill, and would give you a chance to actually be competitive this year. I think JSN gives you the most. If you want to be good in 2023, I think JSN gives you the best chance to do that out of all the players that will be available at pick 11. Now, long term, I still think getting the quarterback makes the biggest difference long term. But
I fully agree. By the way, to me, my big board ranks that I view in the Titans' head as well, sort of. Like, I kind of had a tiebreaker where I'm like, well, the Titans are probably going to like this guy better. But Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson. Then you go like Jalen Carter, Will Anderson, because it goes horizontal, right? So you'd go those guys if they fail. And then like probably Paris Johnson Jr. is higher than JSN on their big board. Ultimately, I would take JSN all day long, but not over one of those top 3 quarterbacks.
Yeah. No, I would agree. I would agree with that. So I think it's, the Flowers thing to me, like, I had him as like one of my guys, but as a trade back, like that, I would be like, if you move back to 17, I'd be perfectly comfortable with him at 17, assuming JSN's off the board. If you trade back into the 20s,
but it's 17.
even better. But
I'm just not for him at 1.11. And even if you move back to like 1.13 or 1.15 with the Packers, it just depends on if JSN is still there. Like, who's on the board? Like, to me, Zay Flowers, I have him particularly, I think, as a wide receiver 3 or wide receiver 4 in this draft class. And maybe I'm a little too low, but I think everybody's kind of forgotten about Jordan Addison. He's kind of got like, I'm thinking NFL-wise. I don't want Jordan Addison on this team, but I think NFL-wise is probably going to be a little bit higher on Jordan Addison and Quentin Johnson than people want them to be. It just feels like it's like JSN, and then it's everybody else, and then there's another tier, but it's like a wide gap between everybody for me.
I would agree.
And you don't take that guy at 1.11. Okay, here's a trade rumor that I heard that I've kind of bought in, and I kind of like it. The Arizona Cardinals have $20 million in cap space. Okay. They have DeAndre Hopkins, who they want gone, or he wants out, supposedly.
Mm-hmm.
The Titans want number 3 to go get their quarterback of the future. A DeAndre Hopkins, Ryan Tannehill pick trade, where because Kyler Murray is probably going to miss 6 to 7 games of the season, they have a guy that they're basically buying an expensive fill-in, but they're getting rid of a wide receiver they don't like. Monty Austin-Fort gets a quarterback to keep this team afloat. They only have to move down a few spots. It kind of works.
Yeah,
I like it.
It's interesting. I'm trying to think. So what's Kyler's contract though? Because they don't really have an out after next year either, do they?
No, but you only need 1 year, right? His cap number is only 16 million. Meanwhile, the cap number for DeAndre Hopkins is 29. Yeah. So if you cut him, you get almost everything you need from the Ryan Tannehill trade. I don't know, just cause work out.
I don't see. I wonder what the motivation for the Cardinals is at this point, right? Like, because everything about them kind of feels to me like they're almost just admitting that this season's a wash, and they're kind of willing to take a down year, see what happens, and
Maybe. I'm just saying, I just kind of liked it. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I haven't really seen that one yet. And I kind
Yeah.
of liked it floating out there. Marlon Anderson asks, is there any more sinkers tickets, trying to bring a couple of homies through? There are a handful left. I don't know how many. So Marlon, you're on YouTube watching this. In the description of this video, you can go click the link and buy the tickets for him. Okay. So speaking of that, or speaking of the draft party and everything, in 5 years, Mike, in 5 years, we will all be looking back. We'll look at the career of Bryce Young and be saying what?
If only he could have stayed healthy.
All right. I wonder if you're going to go that way.
Yeah, I kind of think he's gonna be one of those guys that misses some games, and he's probably gonna be really good when he does play. But I think he could end up being very frustrating.
In 5 years, we'll be saying what about Anthony Richardson?
I think we'll be saying that he's one of the 15 to 20 best quarterbacks in the league, but not an elite guy.
I think we'll be saying
awesome
about
runner.
I think we'll be saying about Anthony Richardson is we can't believe that he fell so far. That's what I think. So
Okay.
I think I kind of am buying in that he may fall, but if people are going to be saying, I can't believe we let the Ravens get him. That's what we'll all be saying. We can't believe we let the Ravens get Anthony Richardson.
The Ravens getting Richardson and then
Yeah.
trading Lamar Jackson
Yeah.
would be peak Ravens.
Okay. In 5 years, we'll be saying what about CJ Stroud?
He's one of the 10 best quarterbacks in the NFL.
Wow, man, you really going for it. I will say that he's good, but not good enough is what we'll be saying.
I almost said 5. I almost said 5 best quarterbacks in the NFL. So
in 5 years, we'll be saying what about Will Levis?
He's one of the best fry cooks in all of the McDonald's chains.
Told you so. That's what that was. Okay, in 5 years, we'll be saying what about Hendon Hooker?
He's really good backup quarterback. Great locker room guy, but not a starter.
Yeah, I think like kind of like an expensive Josh Dobbs. Okay, so I was thinking about this in the shower because we just went through that, and I was getting out, and we were kind of in the discussion of talking about our expectations for CJ Stroud in the group chat, our expectations of Anthony Richardson. And it brings me back to something because you talked about Bryce Young. If only he would have stayed healthy. I put up the data from 2004 to 2022 about technically how many franchise quarterbacks each team has drafted in the first, or how many franchise quarterbacks have been drafted in the first round. These are quarterbacks that have became and got a second contract with their team. 3 in 2004. Everything else is 0, 1, or 2. Now, Joe Burrow, Tua Tagovailoa, Jordan Love, and Justin Herbert. We know we got 2. We don't know if another one will rise out of that. So that may be the next one. But the data would then show if it was, it'd be 16 other years before the next class of 3+ franchise quarterbacks in one draft.
Yeah.
So that means that technically, at best, only 2 quarterbacks in this draft class are gonna see a second contract from the team that drafts them. And you brought it up just now because I've been thinking it's probably Bryce Young and it's probably Anthony Richardson. That would be my guesses of the 2 franchise quarterbacks.
Yeah.
But you brought up something and it made me change my mind a little bit, or at least open up the door to the possibility that maybe Anthony Richardson isn't the wrong horse to back in that. Maybe it's Bryce Young because of injuries, not because of talent. And if that's the case, then CJ Stroud should come in and maybe be a franchise quarterback and see a second contract. So I've kind of opened the door that he could get a second contract from his team, kind of like what Ryan Tannehill did.
I really think I honestly really think Stroud's going to be really good. I know everybody
You're
knows
all
that,
in.
but to me, he brings everything to the table that you want. And like, I know the playmaking stuff, and we've been over this before, but I think he'll be better at it when he's forced to be better at it. He just played in an offense and played with players around him that didn't force him to play out of structure very much. And he was very, very good at staying in structure, which by the way is what most coaches want their quarterback to do like 90% of the time. Like special playmaking stuff, like I get that's super valuable and you want that, but it is I just think Stroud's going to be really good. I think he's going to be one of those that gets a second contract. It wouldn't surprise me if Richardson was a guy that gets a second contract or Young. I do like this quarterback class. I think they're very, very talented overall. And I know everybody's already got batting their eyes at the 2024 class, but I mean this top four versus the next top four. I mean, I don't know. I think it's a pretty even heat. I think Caleb Williams is probably the best out of both classes as far as prospects go, but who knows? By the time we get to next year, he might have a 9 S2 test and attitude concerns, and we're sitting here talking about, I should have got a quarterback last year, So,
all right, let's talk about some predictions here, okay?
Yeah.
What is your biggest, baddest, boldest, hottest draft prediction for tonight?
Oh, for tonight, give me a second on this. I gotta think a minute. I'll go with.
Okay, I'm going to tell you mine while you're thinking. You were supposed to have already. You were told to have this ready, so you're supposed to already have this. I told you 2 days ago.
I thought it was for the whole draft, not for.
Well, yeah. Well, you could do one for the whole draft, but mine is the Bills will trade up for Bijan Robinson. That's my biggest, baddest, boldest, hottest take. That they're going to trade up for Bijan Robinson.
All right, I will say. I'm going to say that the Eagles trade into the top, trade up from 10 into the top, let's say 4 or 5, and go get, I'm going to say they're going to go up to get Jalen Carter.
Ooh, interesting. I think their fans would be pretty mad about that.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so, because, I mean, like, is that the missing piece? You just drafted a Georgia lineman, Jordan Davis, and Jalen Carter, and I don't know. It just seems
they do love to get those.
They love them,
the pass rushers.
But I mean, they paid Fletcher Cox too. Like, I don't know.
It's only like a 1-year deal.
Yeah, I don't know. It just seems odd, but that's a big, bad, bold take. I mean, that qualifies, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's some players that I think people are gonna be wrong about, in a good way or bad way. So either people are too high on them and they're going to flame out, so they're wrong about that, or people are too low on them and they're going to be really good and people are going to be wrong about that. I'm going to go, and we got 3, and there's like I got 1 collection, so we're supposed to have 3 apiece. I don't know if you got 3 apiece.
Yeah.
But my first one I want to talk about is Lucas Van Ness. I think people are going to be so wrong about Lucas Van Ness. I think he is a part-time college player who couldn't see the field. He only had 1 game where he played like 50% of the snaps in his college career. He has 1 move, and I think that people think that they're going to be magical and get like J.J. Watt and T.J. Watt. That's who he's going to be because he's white and he's big. But I think that people are going to be totally wrong about Lucas Van Ness, and I don't think the NFL is going to be as high on him anyway. But I think that people are going to be totally wrong about Lucas Van Ness. He'll be nothing more than kind of like an AJ Espinoza, who is okay, but he doesn't really do anything. But at worst, he's probably Taven Bryan.
Interesting. Yeah, I actually like that one a good bit. I think my first one that I'll throw out there is I think people are going to be wrong on excuse me. I think people are going to be wrong on Tyree Wilson. I know everyone's putting him as a blue chipper. I
did not put him as a blue chipper on my blue. He's not one of my 12.
I mean, he's almost seems like he's a lock to be a top 5 pick at this point. The production to me is not quite there. There's just there's issues with the get off. I know he's like big and long and athletic and he's got a lot of like traits, but to me as a top 5 player, I just do not see it. I think he's going to be a pretty average NFL pass rusher. I think he's going to be more of a, Charles Omenihu than a, dominant, whoever Myles Garrett type or what you would usually consider like a top 5 pick type edge rusher. So I think people are way off on Tyree Wilson as far as how good he's going to be.
QC Haku is a big, huge Lucas Van Ness fan. He played the most snaps of all edge players at Iowa, and Iowa rotates often to keep players fresh. Has nothing to do with his ability. The problem is he only has one pass rush move, but the problem is he's going to be asked to play a lot more snaps than what he's used to. Good luck with that conditioning and being ready and not getting burnt out. Anyway, that's my thing. I think also people are going to be totally wrong on Josh Downs and Tank Dell. I do not think – first, I don't think that they're going to go in the first 2 rounds, either of them. I actually think they're going to be 3rd or later, and I think Tank Dell may be in the 5th. I don't think that those players are going to be as good as everybody says they are because they are just too damn small. I'm sorry. Zay Flowers is borderline, but they are too damn small. They're not going to be able to do what they – I just see Calvin Austin. I see Dwayne Eskridge, those guys that we all thought were going to be something because they played against lesser competition. And these 2 guys play against lesser competition. I don't care how athletic they are. I don't care about anything. I think that the NFL draft nerd world will be wrong about those 2 players.
What was the guy that the Rams took from Louisville a couple years
Tutu
ago?
Atwell.
Yeah. I see some of that in them too. I think people are going to be wrong about Jahmyr Gibbs being a first-round pick. I
kind of think it's going to happen just because the Eagles have a 2nd pick.
I think he may end up being picked in the first round, but I don't think he's going to be a first-round type player. Like everyone keeps throwing out this Alvin Kamara comparison. Jahmyr Gibbs is 190-something pounds. Alvin Kamara is like 225. They are very different players. Like Alvin Kamara, I get like the stylistically, like the slashing, the burst and everything like that. I get the pass catching. I get that part of it. But Kamara, part of the thing that is so good about him is he does all that at 225, and he's a load to bring down. Like he's extremely strong in his lower body, and I just do not see that from Gibbs. I think Gibbs is going to be more of a regular run-of-the-mill, like pass-catching running back that doesn't do a ton for you between the tackles unless it's blocked up perfectly. I
think you're looking at Tony Pollard at best. Like,
yeah.
I think that's a good comp for him. I mean, I also think Tajay Spears is that kind of comp, but I do think he's going to go in the first round. I almost had in my mock draft yesterday because this first round has me in such turmoil. I hate it. I hate this first round mock draft that I've done that I almost had him going to the Bills.
Oh, wow.
I think he's going in the first round. I think there's just too much to like. But I agree with you that it's very much – I think people are going to look at Tony Pollard and think and Antonio Gibson and these guys that are the smaller pass-catching running backs. And if you're the Bills, you got James Cook, right? James Cook is Dalvin Cook, and then you take him off the field and you get a better version of Devin Singletary. I don't know. Like I kind of think that there is an option there's a role for him as a first-round pick, but I don't. I think the people who think that he's better than Bijan Robinson are insane.
Crazy. Yeah,
that is insane. Totally crazy. Okay, my other guy that I think everybody's gonna be wrong about, but this is because I think he's gonna be really good, and I think he's gonna go higher than people expect. Jaden Reed, baby. I'm all in. I just can't. I'm not gonna escape it. If I'm gonna lean in. I'm not going to lean in anything 50% of the way. I'm leaning in 100%. And I think that Jaden Reed is going to go much higher than what he's projected to go, which I think is like 4th or 5th round. I think he's going to go higher. And I think he's going to be one of the best wide receivers in this draft class.
Yeah, my guy, I will go a similar pick there is Marvin Mims. I think Marvin Mims is going to be way better than what any of the projections have him right now. I cannot believe that most of the people I see still have him in going in the 3rd round, which to me is nuts. Like he size-wise, I know is on the smaller side, but so are like all these other guys like Josh Downs and like I know Jalen Hyatt is taller, but weight-wise they're about the same. In fact, I think Mims outweighs Hyatt pretty substantially. I think Mims is going to be a way better NFL player than Hyatt was. I think if you put Marvin Mims in the Tennessee offense, he would have gone even more nuts than Hyatt did. I think he's just flat out a better player. So I think Marvin Mims is going to be one of the better wide receivers from this class, like one of the best 2 or 3 guys to come out of this class. And I think somebody is going to get an absolute steal on him in day 2 if he falls. I mean, I just think it's crazy that he has not gotten more buzz.
Okay, Mike, let's do a couple of Titans related predictions.
Okay.
Over under number of picks they make in this NFL draft. We're going to set it at 5.5. I feel like that's probably appropriate because they have 6. Yeah. So 5.5. Are they going to have less or more than 5.5 picks?
Easy.
Over easy. Yeah. Do you think I set that too low? What would you have set it at?
I think you guys set it at 6.5.
Oh, 6.5.
I think you go to the other side.
Would you still go over? Okay.
Yeah,
I'm going to go under because this leads into the next question. Do the Titans trade up?
Yes,
Give
they
me a
do.
Percentage.
I think they trade up. I think it's like I'm going to say 80%. I'm 80% that they're going to trade up, and I think they do it, but they use next year's picks, future years' picks to do it, and they keep 41 and 72.
So that brings me to 41. There is nobody that I think that the Titans should trade up for from 41.
Right.
Do you think that they trade back from 41 to pick up more picks?
If they trade up in the first, I definitely could see them trading back from 41. I could also see them. I still think, and maybe this is you may be about to ask me this, but I also think that they're going to trade a veteran during the draft.
That was going to be my next question. But so trade down. So how many trades do you think they make? Now, if the player is included in a pick swap, that's obviously one trade. So if they trade up and the player is traded, but how many? We're going to set it at, I guess you would set it at 1.5 trades.
Yeah,
over 1.5 trades. I'm with you on that. I kind of feel like there's going to be a lot of movement with the Tennessee Titans. Kevin Byard, chances he gets traded this weekend.
I think it's like 10%.
Okay. I think that's exactly the number that popped in my head too. Derrick Henry gets traded this weekend.
40%.
Okay. I would say I'm going to go 60%. Ryan Tannehill gets traded.
I'll say 50% on that.
All right. I'm going to go, it really depends on if they trade up, but I think I'll go 65%.
Because if they trade for Stroud, they're going to look to move Tannehill, right?
Yeah, right.
Surely.
Do you think how many players, so we're going to set it at 1.5, how many players will be drafted that visited the team? Drafted, not undrafted free agents.
I'll say 3.
3. So that'd be over. I'll say 2. So I'll still be over. Okay. They walk away with how many wide receivers in this draft?
In the draft, I'll say 2.
2. Yeah, I think that's a good point. We got a couple of questions, so let me go up to the questions. And I think this is a good comp from Bama Brad, and I wish I would have thought of it. Travis Etienne about Jimmy Ribs. I thought that was very good. Okay, let's scroll up here. Give 17 to the Falcons to get up to 8. If Schrager is mocking them to take CJ for a steal, that makes Atlanta the division favorite, and they can land Bijan at 11, right? In theory, yes, but I think that they just like Ritter, and I think that the trade back, I don't think they want a player in a trade back. I think they're going to want just extra picks in a trade back.
Yeah, I would be interested. It would be interesting to know whether they would have interest in Tannehill, because I do think I normally would have said there's no way because he doesn't fit their timeline, that I think they're just going for more of a slow build and they'll really hit it in 24, 25, somewhere around there. But with them signing like Calais Campbell and some of these moves that they've made that seem to be more like, hey, we're going to go try to make the playoffs this year, I could see maybe that they would have interest in Tannehill and say, look, we like Ritter. We still think he's going to develop, but, we need to throw Tannehill in here to give him some competition and make sure that we're covered at quarterback so that we can go win this division that's very winnable. Because I mean, honestly, the Falcons, are the Falcons or the Saints the favorites to win that division right now? Because I think it's got to be one of those two, right?
Yeah, that's what I feel like. The Panthers have done a lot with their coaching staff that they could if Bryce Young can play the full 50 games. You know
if
what
the
I'm saying?
quarterback hits, yeah. But I mean, that's asking a lot for a rookie quarterback.
We did talk about this. Do we trade Tannehill this weekend if we take Stroud tonight? We both kind of think so. Do you think they have a trade deal already in place for Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, Kevin Byard in order to trade up? Would they do trade without having a plan to get capital back? Sometimes you just have to do the trade without a plan to get capital back, unless you're talking about maybe they trade back like we kind of thought. 41, I think, is the best prime opportunity outside of 11 in this draft for them to trade back. I think it's a prime opportunity for other teams that want a linebacker, that want a cornerback, that maybe want a position that the Titans are cool waiting on. That would be a prime. Yeah, that'd be a prime position. I don't know if they already have a deal for Ryan Tannehill, Henry, and Byard in place. Maybe kind of like conversations, but probably not a full-on deal, if I had to guess.
Yeah, I would kind of think that they would at least have had conversations and know that this team is interested, and this would be roughly the price if they were to make a move with Tannehill. Like I think they've probably already sketched out the outlines of what is available out there, and know heading into the draft what that looks like.
Let's see here. Do you think we get one of the bigger wideouts? Tillman, Mingo, and Perry are the three examples he gave.
Normally I would say yes, because that's been their preference over the last few years. We'll see I think that'll be pretty telling how they treat the receivers. Will be pretty telling as far as whether the large receivers thing was a John Robinson deal or if it was a Mike Vrabel deal. I tend to lean towards it being
it's kind of a Lynch deal too. Like it's kind of almost, it feels like maybe it's a Shanahan system deal.
Yeah, could be. Which it is, and I know I shouldn't even say it.
Don't say it.
Gonna cringe. But hey, being able to go in and dig out the safeties is a big deal in this offense.
Well, I like Jaden Reed because he could do that. He could do it. Oh God.
I know. I almost let us get out of a pod without saying digging out safeties, but yeah, just couldn't.
Final prediction for the Titans tonight. What are they gonna do? That you are like, what are you most convicted about?
I think they're trading up to 3 to get Stroud. I think that's what's gonna happen.
I feel like you're right. That's where I'm at. Give me some scenarios that would piss you off, make you furious. Because I did that today. Then people like to interject their own feelings. And I'm like, go make your own fucking list. Don't get off my list. This is what would make me furious. And I put out today, and I'll give you, if you haven't read it, because I know you're kind of busy in the morning. So if you haven't read it, I will read it to you. So these are the things that the Titans can do tonight. Oh, man. It's going to freeze up on me here because the Twitter app for the Mac on the desktop is atrocious, by the way.
It's pretty bad on.
So anyway, let me get here. So these are the things that would make me furious. Like I would be so pissed off that it's gonna be incredible the content I make. You remember when I was really drunk and they drafted Isaiah Wilson?
Oh yeah, I did.
It's gonna be like that. It's going to be like that. Here it is. Draft Will Levis at all. Doesn't matter where they draft him. I don't care if they draft him in the 6th round. If they draft Will Levis, I've just said that you're just burning your pick. Draft Zay Flowers at 1.11. That will send me into a tirade. Pass on JSN with no quarterbacks on the board. So if there's no quarterbacks by the time that they are at 11, they pass on JSN for any player other than JSN. I'll probably be pretty furious. Now, Paris Johnson Jr., I think, is going to go before that. There's obvious exceptions, but for the large part, it's probably going to make me really furious if they draft like Lucas Van Ness instead of JSN. Drafting Lucas Van Ness at 1.11, any ridiculous reaches. Like, I think that if you drafted Brian Branch, even though he's a blue chip player, would drive me absolutely fucking nuts, especially if there's no Kevin Byard trade that follows suit. And drafting Hendon Hooker at 1.11. I would be mad, but not furious if they drafted Hendon Hooker at all, but furious, draft Hendon Hooker at 1.11. So give me some, what's going to make you mad?
a trade up for anything but CJ Stroud, or I'll just say a trade up for anyone but CJ Stroud to me would be a total mistake. So I don't want to see them move up for anybody but Stroud. The other ones, taking a defensive player without a trade down being involved, I would be totally pissed about. I definitely want them to go best player available, but they've got to find a way to make it on offense. Like I know, like, sometimes the board just falls the way it does, and like maybe fucking, you know, I don't know, Will Anderson falls to them somehow or something like that. I just don't want them to take a defender without trading down, because this team needs so much on offense. They have some pieces to build around on defense. You have nothing to build around on offense right now. Go find somebody to build around on offense. That's all I ask. Other things that would piss me off, like you said, a massive reach where it was like, oh, this guy was, you know, mostly considered a 30th overall player, and you took him at 11. Let's see. I think that's pretty much it. That would really like make me. Levis would probably make me pretty mad, especially if it was picked over other quarterbacks that I like better, which are most of them. I think that's probably the list for me.
Here's to hoping that the Tennessee Titans do not settle for Will Levis. Like, do not settle for a quarterback. Just don't. All right. That was a lot to get to. That was the NFL Draft Mega Extravaganza Fest Ultimate Edition 2023. We enjoyed it. We actually really didn't go as long as I thought. I actually stretched it out over the hour with some extra stuff. But make sure in the description, on the YouTube videos, on the Facebook videos, on both Broadway Sports, 440 Sports, those respective social platforms, click the link to get your ticket while they're available, because I have no clue if they're going to be available. Make sure that you have notifications on for Football and Other Efforts Twitter account, for the 440 Sports Twitter account, or the YouTube page for 440 Sports, or the Facebook page for 440 Sports. Turn on those notifications at those specific places for sure. So subscribe and turn on your notifications. That way, when the Titans go live, we go live. It may be a little bit of a delay, but we're going to try and do it as fast as we can, because we got to, we're at a party. We got to get the equipment out, put it together. But we'll go live for our reactions, our analysis. Everything that you need for the Tennessee Titans is going to be between me, Mike, Braden, possibly some other guests. Make sure that you are tuned in for all of that. See you guys tonight. We'll talk to you guys later. Have a happy draft day. Have a happy draft weekend. If they don't get the player that you want, it's going to be okay.
And listen,
unless they draft Will Levis,
and listen,
they'd pull the panic alarm.
The Titans are not going to leave the first round with all of their needs fulfilled. So, like, rather than whoever they pick, whether it's quarterback, wide receiver, offensive line, whatever, rather than wringing your hands over, well, what are they going to do about whatever position? Just enjoy the pick. You're going to get one pick tonight. Like, the odds of them actually trading back up into having a first round pick, very unlikely. So you're going to get one pick. They're going to fill one need, and they can't fill them all tonight.
They won't fill them all by the end of Sunday. When Sunday rolls around or Saturday night's over, all the needs will not be filled. He'll be all right.
No, and
this is not the Super Bowl year. If your expectations for this team are still Super Bowl heading into this year, you got to reevaluate your life choices.
Yeah. I mean, look around the AFC. This is not a Super Bowl contender, no matter who they land tonight or tomorrow or any other day of this draft. This is a team that would be fun to be competitive this year, and then we'll see about 2024.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see about later. At the end of the day, enjoy the draft. It's been a long journey to get here. I'm Zach Lyons. You follow me on Twitter at EffortsPod. He's Mike Herndon. You can follow him on Twitter at Mike Herndon NFL. PaulKarski.com is where you can see all of his written work analysis. StackingInbox.com is where you see all my written work and analysis. And there'll be a lot of it I'm sure we're going to get into after the draft. There's going to be a lot of hot takes flying around. Just make sure you subscribe to this podcast, to this YouTube channel, Facebook channel, whatever. You turn on those notifications and just listen to me and Mike. I wouldn't listen to any other analysis out there. Just listen to me and Mike. That's all I care.
Yeah. You can skip the rest of it.
Yeah, skip it. Just
Bunch of
subscribe.
bombs.
Subscribe to paulkarski.com and subscribe to Stacking the Inbox. And guess what? It will cost you less than $10 a month to subscribe to both. That's perfect. That's a perfect combination to get all the analysis that you need. So just subscribe to all those. If you've got other subscriptions, cancel them. If you got HBO Max, you keep it. But if you got Stars,
as soon
cancel
as
Stars.
As soon as Succession's over, you can cancel HBO Max for a little bit, probably.
Yeah, cancel Stars.
Oh, for
cancel
sure.
Showtime.
Oh, of course, yeah.
I mean, just subscribe. That right there will save you some
Netflix.
money. And you can afford us if you cancel all that, or quit going to Starbucks if you're still going to Starbucks and haven't subscribed. That's how you save money. For Mike Herndon, I'm Zach Lyons. This has been Football and Other F Words. Mega Draft NFL Extravaganza.
Woo!
Best Ultimate Edition 2023. And you have just been effed.